Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, taking what the people wanted and giving them even more in an incredible attempt to satisfy everyone. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, giving people exactly what they ask for, except not how they ask for it. These games are the ultimate social experiment. Does the vocal minority have any real power? Is it possible to make everyone happy by giving them everything, or is not bending for every single whim the best way to go? Well, let's talk about Pokemon Let's Go first. This game has almost everything players have begged for. Pokemon following you, overworld encounters, and a Pokemon Go that you can play at home. Yes, that is one of the most asked for things. Spoofing is a massive problem in Pokemon Go. Also, not everyone has a smartphone or a data plan. There's rural, city players. There's a lot of things that get in the way for making Pokemon Go what people wanted, and one of the biggest requests is just making something that you don't have to walk around. Like, people want the Pokemon Go experience, and they want it from home, so that's what we're getting right here in Let's Go, and that is a massive amount of the player base. So despite having what players want, Game Freak wanted to keep their creative expression and their well-known surprise factor. The first Pokemon Switch game is not a new generation, and it is a Kanto reboot. Not going 100% on the wish list by appealing to everyone has caused these games to face massive backlash. So it looks like giving players what they want doesn't work when there's a middle ground involved. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a completely different response to player backlash. Is it more successful to just cut the ego and feed entitlement? Sakurai went from making Brawl as a party game response to his dislike of Melee and the Smash series becoming competitive, to putting Ridley in as a playable character because one guy on YouTube made a crazy theory and it gained a lot of attention. The response with Smash Ultimate has been to throw so much at the fanbase that they just shut up. Every single demand has been met and exceeded. The 5 people that wanted Pichu back in the game turns into every character being playable so no one feels left out. Hundreds of stages make it impossible for any person to find a complaint for their playstyle or selection. The only things missing are Pokefloats and Waluigi. Does kicking out the people not viewed as real fans like what Game Freak is doing harm a game, or does the inclusivity outweigh the outraged minority? The fact is, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee are main series Pokemon games that are made for any person that considers themselves a fan of the Pokemon franchise. This isn't just me gatekeeping or making stuff up. It has been reiterated by the developers of the game. Junichi Masuda has said many times, this is a main series Pokemon game and it is made for everyone. New players, veteran players, retired players, players who first experienced Pokemon through Pokemon Go. This is a coming together of everything that represents Pokemon, and you can clearly see that in the gameplay and other information, but people refuse to accept that. So the point is that even a part of the player base that's worth supporting? You know, Game Freak's effective response is, hey, we made this for you, and if you're saying no, then you have to wait a year. And I want to see something that's even more brutal than that. I want to see the direction of all future Pokemon games go more in line with Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, because it's more of an adventure. No, it just doesn't feel like some kind of Pokemon game. It's an entire Pokemon experience. And what we see with Let's Go, and I think that's healthier. That's more fun. That's what makes Pokemon so great. And I think Let's Go upholds the spirit of Pokemon more than any other Pokemon game that we have seen so far. So yeah, it's this inclusivity, is bringing all these different player bases together going to work at the cost of the more hardcore, dedicated players that take the game so serious that they'll sit something out if they don't value it as made for them specifically. So who will win? The kind of people that broke Daddy Sakurai, or the silent portion of the player base that supports the creator and hates community entitlement? Because I think that's where the key lies with what's going to happen between Super Smash Bros. And Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. And if we had to make the call right here, right now, today, it looks like the first one wins. Giving up and giving in is definitely going to make you more favored to the people that are buying your product, and we can kind of see that in the trailers. So this is where also things get kind of weird. How much of a representation from the trailers, from the visible response that we have seen? Super Smash Bros. Is getting a lot more people, a lot more excited on social media, but does that actually represent anything? We won't know for sure until the sales come out, but as we can see, those numbers are great. 3.5 thousand dislikes. That's really it, and that's kind of like just the average amount of negative people that you're going to stumble into on YouTube, no matter how good or loved something is. And then we had a follow-up video to that, so the Everyone Is Here trailer. 6 million views, 126,000 likes, only 3.5 thousand dislikes, and then somehow the next trailer got even more likes. I wasn't expecting that, but I think it just kind of blew everyone away because it was just more on top of more on top of more. I don't think, you know, that K. Rool would give the 5,000 more likes in comparison or all the stages. It was just like, wow, we have all this other stuff going on, and that was more likes on top of less views, and then the dislikes were about the same. So still, this was incredible levels of performance. But then when we look at Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, it's not doing as good on all fronts. The like to view ratio is lower, so we have 15 million views compared to 6 million views. We have over double the views, but we have about double the amount of likes. And then a lot of videos, they're going to be under 10% dislike ratio. So that's like some absurdity. I've never seen anything like that from Nintendo or Pokemon just being that poorly received. The comment section of videos are just terrible, riddled with entitlement, negativity, and just hate for these games, even though it is supposed to be a wonderful Pokemon experience and the game developers are going all out to give us their best. Nah, the fan base is not having it. And then we even have like some recent gameplay demos and some recent videos about this that are just doing terribly. 220,000 views, 1.7 thousand likes. That's it, and then 480 dislikes. Now I know that this video does have a lot of its problems, like the commentators weren't that great. It was the same thing from the E3 demo, but this is Nintendo trying to make an attempt to get information out there about the games, and then it is trying to be shut down at every turn. And God forbid you have any public acceptance of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, you're just setting yourself up for attack at that point, and that's kind of the crazy thing. Like, you think about it, this is Pokemon. This is the kids game that a lot of people loved growing up, but a lot of the community has been just kind of turned away from how bad the community has been. A lot of people have fallen out of Pokemon just from the negativity and the lack of appreciation, which is kind of reflected in Let's Go. The people that are against this expression of what Pokemon is about, you know, it seems like they're more just interested in a fighting simulation of monsters instead of actual Pokemon. So we had Jordan Sparks recently tweeting this out. Thanks Nintendo of America for letting me try out the game and Pokeball Plus. This version is a true Pokemon fan's dream. She was called gatekeeping for that she played it, she genuinely enjoyed her experience at the demo, called it a fan's dream, and again, like I said earlier, this is what the developers are saying about the game, this is what the gameplay objectively shows, and then immediately getting called gatekeeping, negativity, just tons of terrible responses, and then this, sellout. So if you like Pokemon Let's Go, you are viewed as a sellout to the community. This is a true Pokemon fan's dream. Me, an intellectual, this ain't it, chief. I mean, people have been saying that I'm paid off by Nintendo because I speak so positively, so frequently of Let's Go. No, I just look at it objectively, and it's an amazing game. That's it. And that causes so much backlash. The biggest mistake, going back to Kanto again. I don't really understand comments like these. Anyone with the most basic of comprehension skills that isn't blinded by their own negativity. Like, these are the people. Are these the people that are worth pandering to? You know, that's what Sakurai has ended up doing. By just feeding everyone, is that going to work out in the end? Or just opening it up to everyone? Because Pokemon Red and Blue version, still the highest selling Pokemon games of all time. I don't even think the time argument can really come into play at that point because there were less people with consoles. There were less people that were gamers back in the day. And also, it's not like in 2005, 2010, Pokemon Red and Blue version were still getting sales. That stuff was discontinued long ago. It was just the games were that good. Virtual Console comes out, gets a couple more million sales on top of that because it's still relevant. People still want that experience. Pokemon Go brought back millions of players that hadn't picked up Pokemon since the 90s, and they were loving it all over again. So it's like, that's the entitlement. Is that what you want to feed? I honestly think that feeding that is the mistake here, and that just opening it up to the larger player base, the silent majority. You didn't even hear about the people that are like, yeah, I want to get back into Pokemon Go. They did, and then the game got over 800 million downloads and blew up, and then Nintendo went, holy crap, there's people that don't engage with the community. They don't engage as much online, but they're still here for Pokemon. And I think that that's another spirit of Pokemon aspect. You play on that nostalgia. You play on the core values that Pokemon is built on, and they will come. So I actually want a Pokemon game, not a bad Pokemon Go related game, except it's like 5%, 10% Pokemon Go maybe, while still also being confirmed main series game. And then people thinking that they have value in this. It's going to be really interesting, because if Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee gets an insane amount of sales, these people, they're not relevant anymore. If it outperforms Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, then yeah, what they say doesn't matter. Nintendo doesn't, like, I think that that's another direction with this. Nintendo, they took this risk because maybe they wanted to see for themselves, but also they don't care. If you decide to release this game as is, I'm not going to buy it. Your protest means nothing to Nintendo. And this is as a Pokemon fan who's bought every single main series game, what you do here kills what makes Pokemon good. Except that isn't what's happening here. By rebooting Pokemon in a different way, what the players want. Players wanted change. So going back to all the other features that players were given, people have also been wanting change for over a decade in Pokemon, breaking the formula, and then when it happens, oh, suddenly you just can't please anyone. I don't think that that's how you can find success. Like, Super Smash Bros. Is a different game, so Sakurai was able to manage it, but that's at the sacrifice of everything that he wanted Super Smash Bros. To be, which is honestly sad when you think about it. Now, what about the actual sales? Is it possible for Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee to outsell Super Smash Bros. Given the data that we already have? I say that that is absolutely possible because of a variety of different factors. For starters, those sleeper Pokemon fans caught Niantic off guard and ruined their servers for a couple months and then kind of killed Pokemon Go, but there's a lot of people that don't engage with Pokemon in a social media online aspect. They just like to enjoy it for themselves. But the Smash Bros community has always been a lot more vocal, a lot more active. Ever since that Melee resurgence came through, you know, people have been really active and supportive of Super Smash Bros, but we don't really see that as much when it comes to Pokemon. You know, we have the top Pokemon YouTube channels with about 1 million subscribers, Pokemon Sun and Moon selling over 16 million copies. The relationship really isn't there. Pokemon Go channels blowing up compared to the hundreds of millions of players out there actually playing Pokemon Go. So the Pokemon Go relationship has a much wider gap between the players that are talking about it and the players that just show up and always buy the games. Another thing is parents. That this is going to be a major sale for parents. That if you're buying a Nintendo Switch for the first time around holiday season 2018, more likely that the parent is going to go and pick up Pokemon. They're going to know what's familiar, especially if Pokemon Go. You know, if that family played Pokemon Go, that is the game that is absolutely being brought home for Christmas that time, and it's going to be interesting to see how that ends up playing out. And the last thing is sales. So people have been pushing this anti-Pokemon Go agenda, and it reminds me of the 2016 election all over again. You know, it just sounded like Trump didn't have a chance. 1% chance, absolutely impossible. Everyone was out there just yelling about how it's not going to happen, and then Trump ends up winning the election. That's because the reasonable people, you know, hate is going to be a lot louder. People, when they are outraged, they are going to leave a dislike. But people that enjoy a video, they might not remember to leave a like. They might not care to be a part of this culture, boasting, making sure everyone knows their narcissistic tendencies, that everything that they say must be heard and acknowledged by everyone, and if they think they're right, then they're absolutely right. You know, when we get to the more conservative kind of mentality that's on a more positive side of the scale, you just don't see those interactions. So so people just broadcast like, you know, Pokemon Let's Go is dead, sales are terrible, but they don't understand how Amazon works. Amazon has a time decay, so whenever you see something on the top selling games list, that isn't all time. It takes a mix of weekly and monthly and daily data over time, plus an algorithm, plus an extra little spin. I asked an Amazon representative and they said they don't even know how it works. So that's a little weird, but also another thing is Super Smash Bros. Is one game. Pokemon is split across 4 games. We have Let's Go Pikachu, we have Let's Go Eevee, we have Let's Go Pikachu Pokeball, we have Let's Go Eevee Pokeball, and I don't know about like bundles and stuff. Also, if we're talking about parents again, parents might be more comfortable just going to Walmart, reserving it there, going to GameStop, reserving it there, or just waiting closer to holiday season until they start putting it in. Super Smash Bros. Players, the second that dropped, those are the independents that just immediately flooded in and then tried to pump up the sales as much as possible. Thing is, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were both number 1 and number 2 on Amazon. Despite being split in sales, Super Smash Bros. It's been holding number 1 and then like kind of drifting around the top 10 for a bit now, but Pokemon has fallen down to the 50s. A game being at 50th doesn't mean that it's going to be, you know, tens of millions or millions of sales below. It could be a much smaller gap. You know, between 1st and 40th is not going to be a massive amount. So if we have Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu with, say, millions or hundreds of thousands of pre-orders, and then we have Let's Go Eevee, you know, it's just a couple points behind, that's going to add up. So, you know, adding the 50th place for sales and the 60th place for sales might put it around 20th. or maybe even 15th or something. We don't know how Amazon works exactly, but what we do know is that the sales are being split up. We have millions of people that are going to want the Pokeball Plus and then their respective versions. So because of that, that's going to all add up, and that's going to put it really close to Super Smash Bros, if not past it. We just don't really know the pre-order figures, and then also the difference between people that actually wait, because Pokemon, they usually have a nice little pre-order bonus if you do it inside of a store or something, direct from Nintendo or whatever. Super Smash Bros, I haven't really seen anything as much like that, so we're going to see where that ends up going, and I think that's kind of it, guys. So, as it stands, this is going to be wild. The social experiment. We won't know until probably January, February of next year to give Super Smash Bros. A fair chance. Because there's only like, 2 weeks between the games? So we're going to get a massive amount of sales. Once that starts to taper off around after holiday season, we're going to see where those sales figures land. Probably March. I think when we get like that first quarter or something, those March sales figures are going to come in. We're going to see what happens. Is Pokemon Let's Go the death of Pokemon, or is this direction something that cannot happen? The games are going to fail, Game Freak turns their act around, and then Pokemon gets restored to its glory? Or is Pokemon already incredibly strong, it's just not going to be there until the games launch, and then this is the direction, this is the true direction that Pokemon needs to be going? And what about Super Smash Bros? Is it this not even outrage, but just like this overcompensating, just loud, a group of people that are trying to make it to where Super Smash Bros. Is where it's at. It's the only thing. It's going to crush Let's Go. Why is Game Freak even trying in the face of Super Smash Bros? Is that going to be true, or are the sales going to underperform? So you guys, enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.